Well, here we are, week 8 of the Lifestream certification course. I know, yeah, 8 weeks went by pretty quick, huh? It's for all of us, when we look back and reflect, it's always interesting when we just set the word in as like, what got you here, what intrigued you. And I know a lot of you from long periods of time in my life to short, very short periods of time, from actually 8 weeks ago. And so it's really amazing kind of to watch the group dynamic, and then to see that just my own observations, the changes that happened in the group dynamic, from when we started, to where we are today, and just in the short 8 weeks that the ones that stepped in and received the technology the first day of the workshop and committed to the 8 weeks, to the owners that had the technologies prior, with the energy already in their systems, but wanting to take it to the next level of doing the hands-on work. So this whole dynamic, and I know almost all of you can relate and realize how your wakefulness started to shift in your life, how all of a sudden things became very clear about how things were in our lives, and what we were holding on in our bodies, and what was accumulating in our bodies, and how our beliefs were kind of binding us and limiting us. And all of a sudden now it's all coming to the surface, and we're like, what's going on? Or I'm very aware, wow, I've been dealing with this for so long. Why haven't I done anything about it? And those realizations, or those awakenings, those are part of the deep shifts that we all can experience and move through, and then utilize that in our lives to be these symbols of change. When we're talking about what the possibilities of Lifestream, I've been saying it for nearly 8 weeks now, and I think a lot of you get it. When it's starting to come together. It was really wonderful last week. Jackie, came up to me after the workshop, and she said, I think I'm really starting to understand now. You're trying to get us consciously ready for the higher understanding of what this is. And I looked up at her and I just smiled, and I said, thank you, you're getting it. And that's kind of the key, is like kind of getting out of the way of ourselves, becoming a finely tuned instrument, clearing what no longer serves, that limits us physically, mentally, spiritually, and then moving into higher purpose. Because when we do shift our vibration, the science or the actuals, it's all tangible, it's all there. These lower frequencies no longer feel. We want to move away from them. And the first thing we want to do is we want to almost like push away from them. And then the first thing is that and then we get to the higher conscious, and we just go, no, I choose not this path anymore. I'm seeking higher purpose, higher, happiness and joy within me. And when we start tapping into that, because we all have to ask that question. I can't tell you what your joy is. Of course I can, but I won't. Except for you, you're full of spaghetti. But of course, when we ask those questions ourselves, it gets really fascinating. And this is that sometimes those answers don't have to come from another. We can get this knowledge from ourselves, because we just have to communicate with ourselves and stop being our own worst enemy. We have to tune ourselves in. And if you find yourselves in the rooms, in the dark, with the TV not on, and sitting in silence, and that silence is very pleasurable, where before it would drive you crazy, so now all of a sudden you're in tune to that silence, you're not even realizing how good it feels to be in that moment and just to be reflecting within the self. That's a huge leap when you started to share that information. When people said, yeah, I found myself doing that too. This is when we get into the higher states of consciousness. And this is what a lot of the monks in these temples on top of the mountains work to achieve, in these energy fields high above, that are in the less interference, that are in the higher atmosphere, where there's a lot less radio frequencies and more, energies of nature and of the cosmos coming down. And so when we start to realize that we can bring that level of energy similarity into our own homes, and then bring it in, and then attune ourselves into our own physical bodies and shift our vibration, all of a sudden, because if you go, I promise you, if you go to temples, if you go to and you come across monks, and they will see you, they will notice your vibration and how it will stand out from anyone else. And we've seen this, and it's not a warning, but it's an awareness that I would suggest that all of you be aware of, because I don't know if it's happened to you yet, if you've actually been seen and then been sought out by gurus or teachers, and actually saw your uniqueness and wanted to talk to you about it, or wanted to get you more involved in what they were doing. So, but I've seen this happen, and I've seen people kind of get tethered at the same time. All of a sudden, they're in the middle of the Lifestream work, and all of a sudden, they get grabbed onto by a guru or a master that does certain work, and sees that ability and sees what they're capable of, and then hones them to do their work. And it could be part of your purpose, or it might not be. It might sidetrack you for a while. So the key thing is to trust your own discernment. Just be true to the self and trust. So, does anybody have any questions about this process? Like, what the heck have we been doing for 8 weeks? Does it make sense, or are you guys getting it? Yeah, sure. Visitor number one.
Visitor number one. Nina, number one.
Yes.
She lives above me.
Yes.
Can I feel it coming through my ceiling? I think I do. I just don't know what the pattern is like. When does it dissipate? 3 feet, 30 feet? Thick walls, thin walls?
Well, if you think that you felt it, probably not a coincidence that you're here tonight. So you did connect to it on some level.
But I also did some work with her.
Again, yes, and but that connection, however, the connection, you doing work, you are exactly part of the way that Lifestream works. Is that you felt it, you connected, and you became curious and you wanted to know more. And that brought you here tonight. So thank you, especially for answering your own question. Because now this is the same thing. We learned this from our animals, and Jeffrey can mention that. When he did his dog for the first time. Was it a dog or a squirrel? Yeah. Okay. As soon as you introduce it to the animals, as long as they're in the house, when you turn it on, they could be 3 rooms away, and they'll come in. They'll sense it. So you being 8 feet away, when she turns it on, all of a sudden, because she already connected you to the energy field, your receptors are wired, your nadis are going, I love this, what's going on? And as soon as she turns it on, you're like, ooh, it's like the beacon. And does that feel right? Does that kind of feel
I
right?
look up at the ceiling sometimes. Mounting ions.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
The
so
ceiling never looks so good.
it's almost like that. Oh.
Guess that's where the shrine goes.
Yes. Put a little symbol up on the ceiling for you. So when if you have guests and all of a sudden you start doing it, they go like, oh, she's looking at the symbol. No, that's great. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm, again, welcome.
Thank you.
That you arrived. That's perfect. So yeah, that's kind of the mysteries. Again, and I guess all of you kind of know, everyone kind of, I know Lindsay asked me a lot of the analytical questions, which were perfect. They need to be, someone always asks those questions, and it's really important. And when you say, can you explain this to us? And I just keep looking and say, well, I'd rather you explain it. And this is one of the whole thing, because those answers are already there. What got you in the room? What pulled you to this energy? and the door was open, but you chose to walk in, and then you connected to it, and you're feeling what it's doing to you, and then you're witnessing what it's doing to others. And so when we experience it, and then we're the observer, we watch the transformations. I watch a lot of people's imbalances that came in. They're on so many different levels. I see, so much more color and vitality. I was talking to Ricardo. Ricardo's known me for about since 2006, I think was when we met. And so just our little conversation today, he says, I've got more energy everywhere, and he's just talking about, just and he's been building, he does all the construction at my different places. And once in a while, I could see that. I said, oh, let me do a little work on you. And he's like, wow, what is this? Just trying to figure it out. Because I know Roger made 2 rooms at Regenesis, but he never got to experience it at Regenesis, but then he came to my place. And I said, yeah, let me show you. And then, he was like, really, doing all the work. And then he's like, hey, John, can I come in and get energy? He was really good about it. I'm like, yeah, Ricardo, anytime, absolutely. And then he really wrenched his back, and he asked me nicely if he can come in, and someone had to drive him, and he got out like an 80-year-old man. I'm like, oh, okay, it's one of those. And so yeah, we did. That's when we did the deep work. And what was beautiful, he just after we did that, I think he came back twice, and he goes, I want to do this, and he says, I want to be in the workshop. So, and it's great, and it's very easy. Everyone had a gateway of effortlessness, however dynamic, that you entered, it worked out perfectly. Everything's in balance. There's many ways of entering Lifestream, and Judy knows, she's known me since I was 18. Her intrigue, at the point I saw her dynamic in her life, I'm just like, she doesn't really look happy. Maybe I should just go over there and have a conversation, and just connect with her. And we just started connecting and talking. And then the door opened again, because we saw each other once a year, maybe once every 2 years. And then, a very important time, we just sat down and had our own little personal conversation, opened up the door again. And then Judy came, and then, Brian's been popping around. He's known me since I was like 16, and then Francois, known me since I was. So yeah, we're getting the whole gang back together. It's like this whole circle of energy, from my earlier days, and to now. It's just really beautiful to experience that. So yeah, we're at this point of transition, and I have little certificates that you guys could utilize that say something about Lifestream. And now what this represents is that it takes you to a whole different level of understanding. I'm going to word this perfectly for you if I can. This is a time of great responsibility. When we have an amplifier before us and its abilities and what it's capable of, its name, it's not really a coincidence. I didn't really work to name it. It kind of named itself. I don't really talk about the story of how Lifestream came, but I promise you the day before its implementation to the day of its implementation to the day after its implementation were 3 very profound opposing days. And I remember them very clearly, just where I was before I turned on the first unit to that day of experiencing to the next day. And what started happening in my consciousness, in my higher consciousness, I started seeing symbols. And the symbols started to guide me. I said, well, fortunately I had a portal that I can utilize, and that was the internet. And I started looking up symbols. And I started realizing they were pointing me to Egypt. And all these symbolism started pointing me to Egypt. And I started seeing, representations of these energies on the walls thousands of years ago. I'm like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? And it was like this door open, and I was like this kid that just walked into the next, three grades above my education. But I said, but something's calling me to take this course, to step into this door. So when we start to leave our comfort zone what we're normally wired to, and all of a sudden greater purpose comes, and you're alone in this. No one came knocking on my door, when I turned on the first unit, and I said, okay, it's time for your training. No, none of that happened. I was on my own on this. I had to filter through. I had a family, and I was looking at this, the dynamic and the understanding. I remember the dreams that I had. I remember the next day, just the call to go to Egypt. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it was so strong. It was like this bugle going off. My question is, do you guys get it? Just nods is enough. You guys get it? Starting to get it? Okay. I don't think I need to be very wordy because I think you guys are all kind of getting it. So that's level of the ones who continue, that are choosing to continue. I have a feeling that all of you are continuing because I haven't seen any live streams come back. I don't know if you guys were saying, well, should I bring them back or not? I did get one phone call. I said, no, you don't have to bring it back. We'll talk this week. So that everyone that does have one, that we should have the conversation. You can do it tonight, or we can talk this week, next week. I mean, and we'll work on keeping that if that's a choice of yours. So, yeah. With that being said, once you receive this acknowledgement from me, what I'd like to do, I'm going to hand it to you, and I'm going to have you. I'm going to have you sit in the chair, and I'm going to just ask you for 5 minutes, just from your own words. Now, the most important thing right now is to stay out of your heads. Don't even think of this. Is one of the first instructions I will guide you in. I haven't guided you in anything in this workshop because you guys are all developing on yourselves. All I'm asking for you to do is to be mindless when you come up here. Okay, don't premeditate. Don't think about what you're going to say. Stop that. Just empty yourself. Just breathe deep.
You don't have to worry about her.
Yeah. Well, some people have profound things to share.
Not
Already hearing them.
That's that. Hot joke. So yeah, this is one of the first things, and if you could do it here in this small group of 25 people or so, imagine what you could do with 1,000 people once you can hold that space, once you can remove the mind and speak without even thinking about it, moving into that higher step of consciousness. Well, you'll just flow. Once in a while, you might see me where I kind of shift and I just go there, and you can feel how the energy changes in the room. All of you guys have that ability. It's all about bringing ourselves into the center, bringing ourselves into the present moment. And then watch the magic happen. Watch every single thing around you change. The people around you, all that stuff is going to drop. That story, that energy is all going to just neutralize. And you're going to realize, wait a minute, I'm doing that. I don't even have the live stream. I used to be able to do that with the live stream, but now the live stream's not even with me. Is the live stream part of me now? And then you start looking at this, what is this thing actually doing? What is it capable of? Well, all it's doing is reminding you, reminding your body, your mind, your spirit, where the optimal place to be is. And when we master that, when we get into that level of resonance, then we walk in that all the time. We become the live stream. And when the time is right, you'll just say, thank you. And you'll pay that technology forward. It never comes back here. Once you commit to it, it goes forward. I've learned my lesson not to take them back for any reason. If you're upgrading, absolutely, that's no problem. But if you just say, no, and then I don't see any of you really struggling in that energy. But it's more about, and this is my process of understanding how to work the energy. Because if we did this like a normal business, oh gosh, just imagine. The impulse buy. If we had, again, 100 of them sitting on the shelves, the impulse buys when people walk in, we'd be pushing people, directing them in the door the old three-dimensional way. But we cannot do it this way. It has to be the connections that happen and how every single person entered in the room. Family, loved ones, how, and we know the dynamics. You can have all of a sudden you feel the profound pull, but then your your loved one is completely the skeptic and the opposite, and they want to challenge you, and they want to like, wait a second. You know, and that's perfect. And that's why I always say, you know, the door's always open. You know, if you need assistance in that, then if they're willing to come, then there's a possibility in them connecting on this journey with you. If you open the opportunity to them and they close it, they say, no, I'm not interested, that's an energy, you know, you can work with. Or you'll have to work with. You'll have to find that dynamic of where it's going to go. You know, but one of the most important things is that we honor each person's decision. Because, you know, to go out there and to say, I can fix you, you know, come here and try to force on someone, that's not going to go very well. That'll kick back on you. So we just open the door. You know, we keep the door open, but they have to choose to walk in. You know, if you have a table like this, always have 2 chairs. Sit in one, have the unit in the middle, and have a chair open. Always make an energy opportunity for someone to walk up and to make a choice to sit with you. Or turn one of these on and stand next to it and just watch what happens. If everyone runs away, well, then you know something's, you know, not right. But if all of a sudden they're like, wow, what's going on over here? And I promise you, when you turn this on, most people come to it instead of walking away from it. Right? We've seen that pretty much. Yeah. Once they make that choice, yeah. Well, again, you know, if a person is distant, you know, then there's other energy going on. You know, that all of a sudden, if your vibration raises instantly from an experience, and you go back into an old energy, now you're amplifying, and that person's still the same. But what's happening is that there always has to be a harmony, you know, for energies to mesh. And if they're too far opposite of each other, they'll oppose each other because they can't occupy the same space. So they'll get pushed away from each other. And whatever happens here to create that, you know, that we just have to honor that. You know, being of the higher frequency, the higher level of understanding, the realization, okay, I'm walking in. I'm taking responsibility because I'm walking into my home. I'm walking into my business. I'm walking into my family, in a higher vibration. So I have to take responsibility to that. I can't go and just blast everyone with this. I will create more, you know, uncomfortableness than I will anything. You know, I thought I would be able to go in there and just change it. Now everyone wants to get away from me. What did I do wrong? It's like, oh, I was out there trying to like change everyone. It's like, no, you know, I'm going to keep this home. I'm going to make it about, I'm going to take it inwards. I'm going to be that change. I'm going to represent that change. I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to own that vibration that I'm in, and I'm going to navigate. I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to see what happens. And that's usually when it gets magical. When we just drop, it doesn't matter what Uncle Charlie's doing, you know, 3 beers in, talking about the Bears and all that. And you're just like, yeah, the Bears, yeah. You know, you're just like going along with it, you know, instead of going, oh, God, there goes Uncle Charlie. He's got 3 beers. He's going to talk about the Bears all night. You won't do that. You'll just look at Uncle Charlie and go, man, he loves doing this. He loves 3 beers, talking about the Bears. And you're like, you're just going to honor that. You're not going to have that charge, you know, and then try to get away. You're just going to watch him from a whole different perspective, going, wow, it's really funny to watch him, you know, now with a different perspective instead of judging. Wow, I was judging Uncle Charlie. You know, I hated going to these family events because of Uncle Charlie after 3 beers, you know, talk about the Bears. But now this one didn't really bother me. I bet some of those have already happened. Yeah, well, great. Well, enough of me chatting. I'm going to put you guys up on the spot now. Who's ready? Who wants to be the first? And you know what?
I don't want to be the first.
Coincidence?
This thing is amazing.
One thing I've noticed that being in this energy has done is help me to face a myriad of fears that I've had since before I can even remember being conscious, actually. But there's just been this uncanny list of my Achilles heels, things that stop me that I'm able to sort of vanquish. I'm able to, you know, doing this, even speaking in front of a group of people is terrifying for me usually. I can do it when I'm performing music and I'm in that one place where I'm very comfortable. I can be on stage, and then after between songs I can joke, and I'm just in my very safe space, but having to just sit in a chair and improvise was probably one of my worst nightmares ever. I mean, I couldn't stand being in school from early on. Speaking in class was always very, very terrifying for me, and I would stutter, and I don't know where that fear came from. I think it's a past life something, that because it doesn't really make sense. But this has changed the last few weeks. I've noticed that when I'm in situations like in a market where normally I feel kind of anonymous and kind of not, kind of invisibly going through life, people in line inevitably always start just talking to me. And it flows. I'm not questioning why. It's just like, oh, we all of a sudden have this thing to talk about. And it's just, it's sort of eliminating that illusion of separation that we all have, that, I have this self and then there are other people here and we're separate. And I think that in many ways, this is dissolving that. And it's not so much about me and what people think of me and what's my purpose. You just sort of sitting there and you're aware, and if there's such thing as God or something, you're just more attuned to that, and you're open, and it's kind of flowing through you, and you're part of this greater wisdom and this greater purpose. And it feels amazing. I mean, of course, it's bringing up challenges too, and toxicity and thoughts, and kind of like, it's very dualistic. It's like there's a lot of healing, and a lot of it brings up issues that I thought I had sort of taken care of in my life, but they very quickly dissipate. I don't attach to them anymore. It's like I'm just observing that, and it goes away quickly. And driving around, I think I said this before, where I normally just really driving is when I can tell, like I'm judging. I'm like, that person, this, this and this commentary going on about what I'm seeing and the way people are driving and maybe that billboard, and none of that's gone turned down about 80%, where I'm kind of just fine with all of that. Like you were talking about Uncle Alfred or whatever. It's the same thing. Charlie's get a bad rap. So I look forward to doing more of it. And I've seen some interesting changes in people that I've worked on too, just immediately. And the interesting thing is that often I work on people and they just love it, but then they kind of disappear. And so I got to figure out why that happens. So thank you. It was nice meeting you all. And that was either 1 minute or 10 minutes. I have no idea.
That was perfect.
I definitely have noticed, not just since the beginning of the certification, but starting use of the generator probably 4 weeks before that, the beginning of this, that I'm just calmer, and I think, as Jeffrey mentioned, a lot of things have come to the fore, like old issues, old wounds, old toxicities, but in a different way. And rather than swimming around and bouncing around in my head, they've just kind of are now in front of me, like a deck of cards, and I'm able to see what it is that I'm working with and not attach so much meaning and old storylines. And so that's, and just a pervasive kind of calmness. I think I'm a lot calmer and able to, when I'm triggered, I'm able to just step back a little bit and not so quickly be inflamed and go headlong into that old patterning. And I think I've had some highs of being really kind of, Jeffrey, you mentioned this, and I've had glimpses of it, like where just moments of compassion in areas where, I'm so quick to be judgmental or agitated or, oh, well, they left that or that litter bug or whatever, dishing out tickets left and right. I call it just like, here's a ticket for you. Or at least talking myself like, oh, well, who's giving you the ticket, Autumn? Just able to have that dialogue with my ego. So, which kind of dovetails well onto meditation work that I had already begun doing, but I think it really helps to just foster that work. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't all been like unicorns and rainbows, because some of the stuff that's come up has not been really pleasant. But it's definitely amplified and expedited things that were there, but I feel prepared to deal with and not grapple with, but just because I don't feel that need. Anyhow, so I think it's just a really amazing tool, and it's been really great connecting with people here and here. So that's all. Thank you very much.
First, I want to say thank you, John. I cannot tell you how phenomenal this whole course has been. Meeting you has changed our lives. Let me just start from 8 weeks ago, or maybe it was 10, because we, as I've mentioned before, our Lifestream generator is called Ernie for short, or Ernestine. So we had to bring Ernestine in because the plug came undone. And so he fixed her up, and we were talking, and he said he's having a 8-week certification course. And he said, would you like to? And he invited Ed and I. And I thought, oh my God, how phenomenal. Ed's going to be cured. It's going to be like a miracle. So what happened, not the way that I thought it would, and I think that's probably why I came up to you last week and said, I think I get this class because it's not so much about the generator, it's about ourselves and raising our consciousness to a higher level. Because the people that you brought in, Vivian, Roger Valentine, Dr. Roger Valentine last week, have made my life and will make Ed's life. I know it because I had told everybody, I sent out emails for the last 5 years about him, and I said when we started this class, I know in my heart and I truly believe that Ed is going to be a changed man for the better. It wasn't the way I thought it would be. I thought it would be the class, but since he missed a few of them, it wasn't that. It isn't that. It's the people who have been using the generator, who are phenomenal. It's beyond even healing. I mean, Vivian now, we've gone to her for a week, and she turned us on to a Dr. Small, who is a homeopath, naturopath. Ed saw him last week, and he's on this diet now and all these not medications, but pills. I mean, he must take 50 pills in the morning and 50 pills at night now. But I know it's going to bring him to a higher, fabulous, physical, mental, emotional place than he's ever been. And it's because of this. It's not, like I said, thinking it was going to be the generator, the Lifestream generator that was going to do it. It is so much beyond that. And now I'm even going to Vivian, and I'll probably go to Dr. Small too. And then when I talked to Roger Valentine the other day, last week, he's going to do phenomenal things for it. And it's because of you. So my heart, I just don't know even how to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For myself, who knows where I'll be, but it's going to be phenomenal.
And may I say to you,
Yes.
you look amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You have such a wonderful heart, and how you dedicated it, and almost every word out of your mouth was Ed.
That's true.
And how you held your mission, but you've done the work yourself. So everyone can see the changes when Jackie started this to where she is now. And it's just begun.
I know, that's why. Once I get this body back to a higher place, I mean, everything's gonna
It's
fall
already
off.
happening. It's already
Yeah.
in that emergence. You're,
Yeah,
you're a
it's-
representation of it.
Thank you.
No, thank
Just
you.
can't say thank you. Thank you all. You're gonna go places like you said.
It's just so much fun.
Sometimes. Well, I came to Lifestream through Judy Johnson, who some of you know and some of you don't. I've been doing Pilates with her for many, many years. So we've been doing a lot of body work together. And so this was kind of an interesting process to go in together to be able to experience some of this. And so thank you, Judy. The short of it is my eyesight's gotten better. And for any of those who sat next to me on day number 1, Mary, I've been having a lot of problems with the over 40 eye situation and reading glasses, and there's been a significant change, and I've been a little baffled by that. And I know you had said you had a similar experience. And so that has been something I'm really taking to heart and really excited about, to hope that that can do some more work with that. And also the body has opened up, which Judy and I have discovered, which has been interesting because, again, I've been working with her for close to 10 years, so it's really been a long journey of a lot of different healings along the way. And so, thank you.
Excellent.
Hello all. So, I met John 3 weeks before the class at another little class, and he was talking about the live stream, and I was drawn to it right away because I do body work, and I just saw it could make me a human stim machine, and so it would, help get deeper into my clients' bodies. And in using it, I also do some energy work with people. So as John's explained what the machine does, in the back of my mind, we go like, oh, that's cool, my energy work does that too. My energy work does that too. But what's really, really cool is the machine, definitely you notice the physical differences, like my fingernails. I was gonna say, anyway, I've been working to open myself up more to connect with my psychic abilities and just open and release what I need to release. And over the weeks of this, because I'm a big butthead and very stubborn, obviously. And so over the course of these 8 weeks, the things I've noticed are what might seem like little things, which really aren't, even following navigation like Waze. If anyone's used Waze, they know how it zigzags you through the city a lot of times, and I'll look at that and go, what the hell, why is it doing that? I'll turn it off and go, I know how to go. And so finally, then someone mentioned to me something like, well, sometimes it's maybe taking you around the traffic. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I started following my Waze, going like, oh, it's doing that. So, it's helping me to be willing to follow a little more instead of just go my own way. So what else? I had something else. I just know it's opening up something within me that that's opening, that needs to be opened. So it's hard to describe because it's just something that needs to come out and release. And I also notice I have it on under the table when I'm working on my massage clients. Other clients, I do the hands-on with them. And so the clients where I've done the hands-on, even just after a couple times, then when they come in, they'll even ask, are we doing the machine today? Because they want it, because they've started to notice. So they are noticing the difference. And for me, when I'm doing the energy healing on people, I'll have the machine on and under the table. And even though my clients a lot of times don't notice it initially, I just feel a huge, how it's enhancing the energy just 1,000 times. It's really amazing. So I'm looking forward to working with that. Oh, I know what it's opened up. Hello. I've been birthing this energy work and what I'm supposed to do with it, and how am I gonna, and then once I started this course, I'm like, okay, I do massage, I do energy healing, now I've got the Lifestream, and how's this all coming together? And so definitely now I'm starting to have the visions of where it's all going and what I'm going to be doing and using the live stream with the healing work. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may exchange one thing, you know, your higher abilities lie in your feminine energy. So just keep allowing that to emerge, because that's why this is happening, is that simulation of the true feminine within you. When you honor that, you'll just become that lotus. You'll just bloom.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
First, I have to say thank you, John, very much for everything. And thank you all, guys. Well, as John says before, I get to know the technology in Regenesis, but just one day I get to sit in the room for 20 minutes when the technology was there, and for me it was relaxing. And after, like 2 or 3 years after, I was working very near in Chelsea and Arizona, and I have severe problem with my knee, my right knee. And I was working in the first one floor up and coming down and up. And was a moment I said to my helper, I think you will be the one to go and come because my knees. And that moment, John called me and says, hey, Ricardo, whenever you can pass over here. I said, I'm gonna pass right away. Then when I arrived to the office in Stuart, in Colorado, he says, how are you? I'm okay, but my knees give me some trouble. Sit there and put the machine in your chest, 20 minutes. And he went to work. He was with that. And after he came and said, oh, okay, you know, take your shoes off and I'm gonna make a treatment on you. And he bring a quartz and put it in the machine and put fingers in the machine and the quartz and begin to work with me. It was incredible what happened because all the contraction I had was incredible. And he worked with my knees. And I said, he says, this is it. Let's see if it help you. Then I went to work. Hour later, I was, hey, I have nothing in my knee. It's perfect. And I grabbed the phone, I called immediately John and said, John, thank you very much. My knee is perfect. I'm going up and down without any trouble. Oh, I'm happy, Ricardo. It's self for you. Then I realized I get to know this thing like 3 years ago. I didn't get it. And now I experienced the powerful that is. And from that day, I told John, I want to have one and I want to do the course and whatever. And 2 months ago, I was in severe problem in my lower back, and he helped me. And then I told him, when he told me that it's going to be the course, perfect, I'm going to do it. And these 8 weeks has been very important for me because it's like reconnect with a bunch of energy, thing that I was doing long ago, has reappeared now, vivid colors. Then it's been very important, John. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank
and thank you all guys.
Thank you.
That's it.
Endless, right?
Exactly. Just take a deep breath and just let it come.
This is really, this is really weird. While I was sitting there, I realized this goes back to 2nd grade. I used to go to the library and check out books, and I'd bring home all these books about Egypt. And I wasn't a very skilled reader. I mean, I was ahead of my age group, I think. But my mother was like, oh my God, you're gonna be an archaeologist. but I think it was that it was very, very familiar. I'm also like a tuning fork, so I don't know where, I do know where this is coming from, but so the first time I walked into this field, I felt like I was home. And it was very profound for me. Now this is, I get an email or a Facebook thing that talks about this course, and I just said, oh, I'm in this course. I already see myself there. And I didn't even read the description, so John had to explain to me that I would be taking a machine home, because I called him up and I said, well, I guess I better make arrangements to get a machine. He goes, what are you talking about? It's part of the course. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like just cycling ahead. I've walked all over the world to sacred places. Like, for instance, I've been to the Himalayas 7 times, going to extremely high sacred temples and gompas and all of this business. I've walked all over India going to temples. I'm looking for this energy. I'm looking for what's familiar. What has that timeless depth and that horizontal line that moves through all limitations and barriers to this right here. And in this world, I think it's there with the people that are studying that. So, I mean, the highest altitude I went was, I don't know, over 18,000 feet. And it was very profound there because the mind has to get out of the way. There's no oxygen. Oh, isn't that convenient? Now I understand why these monks and hermits go into those caves at high altitude, because a bunch of this dross can just drop away and you just get into the present moment. You can't escape the present moment. I sat at this one place, maybe at 16,000 feet, and I'm watching the light shift on the Himalayas. And it was beautiful. It was like a dance of the light. And then I found out I'd been sitting there for 5 or 6 hours without any sense of time. And just perfectly at peace there. So what did I learn from all that walking was that actually you bring the sacred wherever you go. Sitting in this room with you, with your clients, with your loved ones. I was with, this is in quotes, a problematic member of my family yesterday. And so I was with her for a couple hours, and there was so much grace, I forgot who I was with, according to the family, this person. And we had the most wonderful conversation. And so when I was driving away yesterday, I went, well, what changed? Oh, some stuff got out of the way. And I just saw her, and none of her stuff bothered me. My stuff got out of the way. Her stuff wasn't even there. Amazing. She just got a pacemaker, which I thought was a great metaphor for somebody who's having trouble with this part of her being. Pacemaker, interesting. So, anyway, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
My house feels like a temple, and I know it's this energy and this conduit that comes from someplace else that hooks us up with sacred places all over the world and inside everybody's heart, because we all have that place here. It's not out there.
Thank you.
say it's been wonderful hearing the people who've got up to talk so far, Jeffrey and Pardo and everybody. It's nice to hear, thanks to John for forcing us up here to talk like this. Some of the people who didn't speak up a lot in the class, really your experiences and how you got here. I think maybe in the first week we were all a little timid to really share how we got here and what brought us here. And for myself, I think it was a big surprise. It kind of fell in my lap, so to speak. And Judy Johnson brought me here along with several others. And some of whom I've known and seen over the years and not gotten to have contact with, and I've really enjoyed getting to know, and I have to say, seen a profound change. And and John talked about in the first week or two being able to see people's energy. So I was like, I wonder if I'll be able to do that. I wonder if I'll be able to see that. And I really have been able to see that, particularly in the people that I knew before. I mean, like Nina, now anytime she's in the room, I want to go stand next to her. She's radiating something. And Jeffrey, I just can't, and it's a really wonderful thing to see. I had my first experience here with them in particular in a group setting, and before a big trip that I take every year that is a very profound trip. I go on every year, camp for a week up in the mountains of North Carolina, and I did that right before I left, and I called my mother on the way home and I said, I just had one of the most profound experiences of my life, even though the entire time I was laughing hysterically. And I didn't know exactly why I felt like it was so profound, other than, I felt amazing, and I was describing myself to Judy. Afterwards I felt like a little cat, I just, wanted to hug everybody. And it was a really wonderful feeling. And so I went on my camping trip, and it rained the entire time, but it's always so amazing to be up there. And, when I came back, my life changed completely. So many things started happening that felt like they were completely out of my control, and there was nothing I could do, and I just felt like my life was falling apart. And I had just gotten his email that the certification was starting, and just like, okay, well, I have to do that. There was no question, there was no how am I going to do it. The ability to do it just presented itself. And I have since moved into a new home, and people say like moving and divorce and like some of the most stressful. So moving was something I did during this course, and incredibly stressful. Purging myself, having to get rid of things. I'm not a hoarder, but I definitely hold on to things. And I had clothes that I'd had since high school. And I was having a hard time letting go, and I let go of so much stuff, and brought in new energy, and seeing it all be connected, to this energy, and being able to do that and feeling good about it, but also apprehensive. And then so much else has happened that has been so emotionally trying, and this course is amazing. You start looking at the box going, forcing this, but I think I've said before, I think this came into my life for a reason at a very particular time that I knew I was going to need something else. And I've lost 10 pounds, and don't know what that's connected to necessarily. I have been under stress, but I've been able to deal with the stress in a way that I haven't been able to before when I've gone through really difficult times. Burst into tears a couple of times on John. But never got that feeling of hopelessness. It was just more of a release, and I could acknowledge it as a release, as what it was, just a release. And been able to continue moving forward rather than feeling stuck. I think that's huge. I've had a lot of neck issues, and this has helped with that a lot, getting into the physical part of it. John told me I could sleep with my box, and now I sleep with it. And it really relaxes me at night. I'm able to sleep really well. My brother had neck surgery and had a metal plate put in his neck, and he can be a little nervous about stuff like this, but he was in town recently, and he allowed me to work on him. And the neck thing that he'd had was incredibly chronic, years and years and years, ruptured disc, nerve issues and things. And 2 neck surgeries. This last one, they went in through the front to put the plate in, so this was in June, and he was still having symptoms, and he's gone back a couple of times. He's had an MRI, and they said it was such a chronic thing. It's going to take time for the symptoms of all these years of damage to dissipate and to go away. And I worked on him for maybe 8 minutes. Like, it wasn't even a really long, series, and he was a little apprehensive about stuff, but maybe 8-10 minutes I did things, meridians, the neck, and he sat down, and I worked on his girlfriend for a little bit, and then turned it off, and he's like, I don't feel any pain anymore. And we're like, okay, well, let's see how you feel in the morning. And he got up the next day, how do you feel? No pain, no symptoms, no pain. Before he got on the plane, the last thing he said to me was like, I haven't been in pain the entire time I've been here since you worked on me. So that was huge, and huge for me to be able to do that for him when he's gone through years and years and years of pain with that. So that was a very wonderful feeling to be able to help a family member who's been in such pain. Have I gone 5 minutes yet?
Perfect.
So it's been wonderful, and it's been a roller coaster, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm very sad that this is over, because it's been really lovely to come in to a room and be with people that aren't connected in my life and on all these other ways that I'm used to dealing with. So thank you guys. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Brother John here for a while. Call him Brother John. He's that and much more. As I'm getting used to, or finally finding or landing in this frequency, in this energy, it seems to be like it's over. Whether it's slow or something, for me, it was been more like an opportunity to be and work with it for myself. I haven't really had the opportunity or giving myself the time to really share it with others. Some of it has been more like self-experiment, working through it, to be able to know and understand what it is that I'm sharing, or even want to tell people about. I want to be able to know what it is or how it is changing or working with me. And I still don't know, except for the fact that I can think of people and then they show up. In the sense of, they show up in a phone call, they show up in an email, and then I bring it to their attention. I was like, oh, I was just thinking about you, and here you are. And then they, of course, say, yeah, I have that effect on people. And of course, if it was just randomly, like one person, I could say, yeah, it's them. But what happens is that it happens with more than one person. So then I say, no, I don't think it's them. And could be. So just noticing really the power of our thoughts more than anything. I shared before, having a conversation of tickets to an event, and the next thing you know, following day I have a person giving me tickets to go see a game. That was pretty hysterical. Gifted, thank you, and puts me in a deeper awareness of what am I thinking, what am I calling forth, what am I asking. Starts with myself at source, and then be able to have personal experiences of that, so that then I can share with others what is possible for them. Without making promises, just noticing that it's possible for them to look into it and see whether it's true for themselves or not. I am also learning to don't know what this word compassion is. I mean, I know the dictionary meaning, but really, like, what's the word? What does it mean to be in it? And I was asked about that 2 weeks ago. And whether it's a koan and my homework, I still don't really know it. And there's an interest, a desire on my part to really be able to connect with the meaning of what that word is and how that's shared or how that is seen or experienced in others. And not as right or as wrong, it's just something to notice. Anyways, I think that's enough for now.
So yeah, when I first heard about it, I responded immediately, kind of a gut feeling. And I came over here and John worked on my neck and all that stuff happened. And I was just sort of intuitively kind of fascinated and wanted to implement it into what I do. And so I have, and there's definitely more viscosity in the soft tissues of the body, so there's more willingness of the tissue to stretch and give way to movement, which is part of what I do and teach. So that's been beneficial for my clients and for myself. It's very calming, definitely soothing. They'll comment on that. Some of them will say they feel like they want to go to sleep. Yeah, just working on different hands-on techniques and way to implement it into more of a, I guess, a physically therapeutic dynamic. As far as psychologically, I don't know. I can't say anything wholly profound in that realm, but I'm a pretty physical person and very fascinated with the body and changing it, and it's definitely been helpful for that. So, thanks.
It's been an incredible journey, not the way I thought it would be, and some things occurred that I couldn't have planned. I've, like some of you, I've had a unit for some time before the course, and I had been trying to process some things and just flow with it and trust, and I didn't know how to do it. And at the end of the 8 weeks, for me, it ended up being, other than my use here during the interactions, my unit at home never went on. And I did not realize until tonight that there was a reason for that. I'd had some mental notions and some things stirring, and I didn't know what it was, and I had to let it go and stay out of the mind and just trust it. And I realized tonight, maybe 10 minutes ago, that what it was that was my way to finish merging with it, to become one with it, to not see it as something outside of myself. I mean, the energy itself, it's a thing, it has parts and so on, but I had this notion that I could get there, and I thought that more use would do it, and I would interact differently, and then it just ended up that way. I could not turn it on, and when I was here, I enjoyed the energy and I enjoyed interacting with the people. And I realized for me, being part of this project and having had a unit for some time, it was a little bit different path, but I couldn't know what it was, because then I would just messed it up. And it had to be about you. It had to be about the people, which really meant that it had to be about me. I had to become one with the people. I had to quit seeing people as separate. Somebody mentioned that earlier. On this spiritual path, we come across so many profound things, and the mind says, wow, what does that mean? Or we like something, that sounds so good. That would be a great Hallmark card, or it sounds good, but what does it really mean? And then you speak it, and then you say, am I really being this? And everything, I felt like I was falling short on everything I did, and I realized I was supposed to, right? And then the right teacher would come along and say the right words. No, every spiritual path sets you up for failure. You're supposed to burn out what we call the ego. You know, not reject it, but to transcend it, make it your friend. You know, people doing workshops on the shadow, right? It's not about fighting something that shouldn't be there. It's about realizing it's there for a purpose. And it all comes back to me. It all comes back to you. And so these devices take and amplify that. And I had already set my course on that, and more of that wasn't what was going to do it. It was me. It was merging with me, and it was letting the people guide me through this. Not a mental thing. That's why, you know, working with John, I can't be here too much. There's too much stuff going on here that I can't really be a part of. I need to stay separate from that so I can stay centered. So the things that I have learned and transformed through in this process is completely different than anything that my mind thought. And that's such a miracle. There's so much love in this room. I'm just right on that brink of getting very choked up, and I was earlier. It's being able to see that when somebody is in fear, when somebody is in doubt, when somebody is working through deep issues, it's like that's love trying to come out. That's our core. That's what we are. And then the words that you hear from all the teachers and all of the books, they start to become your reality. And it's just been an incredible process. So I just want to thank you all for participating, everybody. It's just been an amazing journey, and if it seems like it's gotten intense or been profound, it's just begun. Don't let that scare you, because you know it just keeps. It's like it never ends. Every time the mind and the ego say, "I've arrived," I get a nice big ego check. All of it gets swept away, and I start over. And I go, "I didn't know anything. I really didn't know anything." So, yeah, let the mind, just do what it does, and be the tool that it is. But it always comes back to the heart, and then they merge. The eagle and the condor. That whole thing. It's in all of the mythologies, all of the teachings. It's in the artwork. It's in the music. It's in the sound. Just realizing it's really true. You hear a guru say, "You're nothing but light and sound." Yeah, right. And then you start to merge with that, and you realize that's what we are. And it's love. So it's a unification for me, and I think that's what the devices are for. They're tapping into something that we're already connected with, and they're amplifying it so that we can be more of what we already are. Thank you all.